Hey everyone, and welcome back to Thought Tidbits. Today we're doing a deep dive into something that I think we all struggle with sometimes, but maybe don't talk about enough, and that's loneliness.
You're absolutely right. It's a really common experience.
Yeah, it really is. To help us with this topic, we have an expert joining us today who focuses on human connection.
Yeah.
Welcome. So maybe let's just start with the basics. What is loneliness? Like, is it the same as just being alone?
That's a great question. Loneliness is not really about how many people you have around you. It's more about like the quality of the connections that you have. So you could be at a party with tons of people,
Right.
but still feel completely lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really about the lack of meaningful connection and that feeling that you were understood and seen.
I see. So it's more about the quality than the quantity of connections you're making. So then why, like with technology, everyone feels so connected now? Why are we seeing so many people who feel lonely?
Well, I think it comes back to that difference between shallow and deep connections. Like, technology definitely makes it easier to talk to people, but it doesn't always give you those like deep face-to-face interactions that as humans we kind of crave. Like those little things, the nonverbal cues, laughing together, just being present with someone. Technology can't really replace that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like we're trading real connection for just the appearance of it.
Exactly.
It's like you're starving for connection, but you're just eating a bunch of junk food instead of like a nourishing meal.
That's a great way to put it. And just like junk food makes you feel physically bad,
Yeah.
like superficial connections can actually make you feel emotionally empty.
Yeah, I know after I've been on social media for too long, I always feel that way, like a sugar rush and then you crash.
Yeah.
But is all loneliness the same? Are there like different types of loneliness that we should be aware of?
Yeah, there are. So you have emotional loneliness, which is like that deep yearning for an intimate bond. Like when you miss your partner or your best friend or a close family member.
Right, it's that specific ache of missing someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's social loneliness where you feel like you don't really belong to a group or community.
So it's not just about like one-to-one connections, but also about feeling like you're part of something bigger.
Yeah, and then there's this deeper kind of loneliness that people don't talk about as much, called existential loneliness. And that's when you feel disconnected from like meaning or purpose in life.
Right.
And you can feel that even if you're surrounded by loved ones.
Wow, that sounds really heavy.
Yeah.
How would someone even know if that's what they're dealing with? And how do you even approach something like that?
Yeah. So you might start to question like the meaning of life, or you feel alone even when you're around people. And I think to address it, you have to do some introspection. Maybe explore mindfulness or connect with spirituality, or even find something you can contribute to that's bigger than yourself, like maybe volunteering.
Yeah, so finding that sense of purpose outside of your own little bubble.
Mm.
Okay, so we talked about types of loneliness, but what about its impact? Is it just emotional, or are there physical consequences too?
Actually, loneliness impacts both your mind and your body. When you're lonely, it triggers your stress response, which releases hormones that over time can lead to inflammation and a weakened immune system. You're even more likely to have mental health issues like depression and anxiety.
Wow, okay. So it's serious.
It really is. Some research even shows that loneliness is linked to heart disease and problems with your thinking and memory.
So this is not something to mess around with.
Definitely not. It's like ignoring a warning light on your car's dashboard.
Okay, so if someone's listening, they're like, yep, that's me. I'm feeling lonely right now.
Yeah.
What can they do right now? Like before they even start to tackle the bigger issues?
So there are a few simple things. First, just reach out to someone. It doesn't have to be some deep conversation. Even a quick text to say, "How are you?" can make a difference. Another thing is just being around other people. Go to the library, a park, a coffee shop, anywhere where you feel a sense of community.
Yeah, I think just being around other humans helps, even if you're not really interacting with them. What about doing something nice for someone else? Like, does that help?
It totally does. Even little acts of kindness, like holding the door open for someone or giving a compliment, can make a difference. It reminds you that we're all connected.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what about the long term? How do you build a life that's less lonely?
It's about focusing on those deep, meaningful connections instead of having tons of superficial ones. So instead of a huge network, cultivate a few close, authentic relationships where you can be yourself.
So quality over quantity.
Yeah, exactly. It's about having those people you can really talk to, laugh with, cry with, people who get you quirks and all. Remember, though, these kinds of relationships take time and effort. You have to be present, listen, and be there for each other.
It's an investment.
It really is. So another thing you can do is join communities where you share interests. Find your people, whether it's a book club, a fitness class, or a volunteer group.
It's so much easier to connect when you have something in common.
Totally. And this one can be hard for people, but practice being emotionally vulnerable. Let yourself open up and share your feelings, even the bad ones, with people you trust.
That can be scary. Why is it so important?
Because when you let yourself be seen flaws and all it gives other people permission to do the same, it lets you connect in a real and honest way.
So embrace the messiness of being human.
Yes. Those messy, vulnerable moments are often where the strongest connections are made. And this might sound a little strange, but learn to enjoy your own company.
Wait, hold on. Enjoying being alone helps with loneliness. How does that work?
I know it sounds weird, but learning to be content when you're alone is actually really powerful. When you're comfortable with yourself, you don't need other people to validate you or fill a void.
Like you're complete on your own.
Exactly. And when you have that inner peace, loneliness doesn't have as much power over you.
That makes sense. So it's not about becoming a hermit, but finding a balance between connecting with others and being okay by yourself. Okay, this has been super helpful, but life throws curveballs. What about those times when you feel lonely because of a big life change, like a breakup or moving?
Yeah, big life transitions can definitely shake things up and make you feel vulnerable and alone. First, just be patient with yourself. It takes time to adjust, so don't expect to feel better overnight. Allow yourself to grieve what you've lost and then start creating new routines that bring stability.
Like what kind of routines?
Little things like going to your favorite coffee shop every morning, going for a walk in a park, or joining a yoga class. Anything that makes you feel connected to your new surroundings.
So find those things that ground you.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to reach out to old friends and family distance. Doesn't mean you can't stay connected.
It's nice to know that there are people who care even if they're far away.
Okay, so we've talked about being alone and being with people. What about feeling lonely in a relationship? Like, how is that even possible?
Well, often it comes down to unmet emotional needs or poor communication. You can share a life with someone, but still feel emotionally disconnected, like you're living on different planets.
Wow, yeah, that makes sense. So
Right.
how do you fix that? The first step is to talk to your partner. Be open and honest. They may not even know you're feeling this way. Tell them what you need and how you're feeling.
And hopefully they're willing to work on it with you.
Right. But even just saying something can make a difference. It opens up the conversation. You can also try to reconnect with each other. Plan a date night. Do something you both enjoy. Just make time for each other.
So you have to nurture the relationship just like any other connection.
Exactly. And if you're struggling, consider couples therapy. It can be a safe space to work through these issues with professional guidance.
Right. There's no shame in asking for help. So we've talked a lot about how social media can create this fake sense of connection. Can technology ever actually be helpful for loneliness?
Yeah, it's tricky. Technology can definitely make loneliness worse if you spend too much time online comparing yourself to others. But if you use it mindfully, it can help you connect with people in a real way.
Okay, so how do we use it for good?
Whenever possible, try to do video calls instead of just texting. Seeing someone's face and hearing their voice makes a big difference. Online communities can also be really good for meeting people with similar interests. So find a group online that focuses on something you love, whether it's books, movies, or anything else.
Sharing a passion with someone is a great way to connect.
For sure. And finally, pay attention to what you see on social media. Unfollow accounts that make you feel bad about yourself. Look for content that inspires you, makes you laugh, or teaches you something new.
So be intentional about what you consume online.
Exactly. Technology can be a great tool for connection, but it's up to us to use it wisely.
All right, so last question, and this might sound strange. Can loneliness ever be a good thing?
You know, it might surprise you, but yes, it can.
Really?
Absolutely. Loneliness can be a signal from your body telling you that something needs to change.
Like a check engine light for your soul.
I love that.
Did
It's
you-
a sign that you need to take a look at your life, your relationships, and your priorities. It can help you grow and make changes you wouldn't have made otherwise.
Wow. So instead of seeing loneliness as a bad thing, we can see it as a wake-up call. A chance to make our lives better.
Exactly. It can help you figure out who you are and what you want. It can help you connect with yourself in a deeper way.
This has been so insightful. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today.
My pleasure.
And to our viewers, you're not alone in this. If you're feeling lonely, reach out. Explore. Be kind to yourself. And know that connection is possible.
Yeah, it's been really interesting talking about all this.
You know, as we were talking about before, one of the things that I find really fascinating is how you can feel lonely, even when you're around people.
That's so true. We tend to think about loneliness as something that happens when someone's physically alone, but it's not always that simple.
Yeah, you can be in a room full of people.
Yeah.
Like we said before, even be in a relationship and still feel lonely.
It really shows how different it is to just be near someone and to actually connect with them on an emotional level.
It's like you're speaking different languages, even if you're using the same words.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. You can be living with someone sharing a life, but if you're not connecting emotionally, you can still feel that loneliness.
And I think that's harder to admit to because on the outside, everything looks fine.
Right. We have this idea that being in a relationship should make you happy and fulfilled. So when you're lonely, even though you have a partner, it's confusing and can even make you feel ashamed.
Like you're doing something wrong.
Exactly, and that can stop people from asking for help or even admitting to themselves that there's a problem.
So how do we change that? How do we make it okay to talk about feeling lonely, even when you're in a relationship?
I think we need to be more open and honest with each other. Create spaces where people feel safe to talk about their feelings without being judged.
Like with friends or family or a therapist,
Yeah.
even online.
Yes. We need to understand that everyone feels lonely sometimes, and that it's a good thing to ask for help or talk about how you feel. It doesn't mean you're weak.
We need to change the way we think about it. Instead of something's wrong with me, it should be this is normal and I deserve support.
Exactly. And if you're feeling lonely in your relationship, talk to your partner. Tell them how you feel and what you need and try to find solutions together.
It might be tough, but it's how you build a stronger relationship.
Absolutely. You know, this conversation has made me think about how we think about loneliness as a society.
I know what you mean. It's like we treat it like a secret, something to be ashamed of.
It's definitely taboo. And not talking about it only makes it worse.
It just isolates people even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to talk about it openly. Recognize that it's a real problem that affects a lot of people and that we need to find ways to help.
It's not just about how you feel. It affects your physical and mental health too, like you were saying before.
For sure. And the longer it goes on, the worse it can get.
So how do we change things? How do we bring loneliness out in the open?
Education is really important.
Yeah.
We need to teach people about loneliness, how common it is, how it affects you.
Starting when they're young.
Like teaching kids about their emotions and how to have healthy relationships. Exactly. And we need to create more places where people can connect. Community centers, support groups, online forums, places where people can feel like they belong.
Places where you can have those real conversations.
Right. And we can all try to be more present when we're with other people. Put your phone down, make eye contact, really listen to what people are saying.
Little things make a difference.
They really do. It's about spreading kindness and understanding.
So it's not just about fixing loneliness in ourselves. It's about creating a better world where everyone feels connected.
Exactly. We need to work together to solve this problem.
This has been a really great conversation. I'm curious, though, what got you interested in this topic? Why did you start studying loneliness and connection?
Well, it's funny, actually. I started studying this because I felt lonely myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I was younger, I went through a really lonely time. I had just moved to a new city for college, and I felt completely lost.
Moving is so hard. You leave everything behind.
Yeah, I didn't know anyone. I missed my friends and family. It was really hard to adjust.
I can imagine.
It felt like I had this weight on my shoulders all the time. Like I was invisible even when I was around people.
I think a lot of people who feel lonely feel that way.
Yeah.
Like no one sees them.
Yeah. And it hurts.
So how did you get through it?
I realized that I couldn't just wait for someone to come along and be my friend. I had to do something myself.
You took charge.
I did. I started small, joined some clubs on campus, talked to people in my classes, started volunteering.
You put yourself out there.
Yeah, even though it was scary. And slowly I started making friends and feeling like I belonged. And the loneliness started to fade.
It shows how even small steps can make a big difference.
They really can. And that experience made me want to understand loneliness and find ways to help other people who are going through it.
It's inspiring that you turned your own struggle into something positive.
Thank you. It's been an amazing journey.
Well, we're glad you're doing this work.
Yeah.
I think your story can give a lot of hope to people who are struggling.
I hope so. Loneliness doesn't have to last forever. There's always a way to find connection.
Sometimes you just have to try and be open to new experiences.
Exactly.
This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your knowledge with us.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our viewers watching, remember, you're not alone. If you're struggling, reach out, explore, be kind to yourself, and know that connection is possible.
Yeah, it really is amazing how that happens.
Yeah, and I think as we're wrapping up this deep dive into loneliness, the thing that keeps coming back to me is that it's like a signal, a push to make a change.
It's true. It's not something to be scared of or try to ignore. It's a chance to grow and learn about yourself.
Right. It's like they say sometimes you have to get lost to find yourself. Loneliness can make you face those hard truths about yourself and your relationships and where you fit in the world.
Exactly. It can shake things up and make you make changes that you might have been putting off. It can be what you need to set boundaries or go after things you're passionate about or just take care of yourself.
So it's not a personal failing. It's like a wake-up call.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
Mm.
chance to make your life better.
So it can help you figure out who you are and what you want and connect with yourself more deeply.
That's a great way to think about it. And it makes me hopeful for anyone who's struggling with these feelings. It's hard, but it doesn't have to be who you are. It really is just a chapter, not the whole story.
And in that chapter, there's so much potential for growth and connection and finding yourself.
I think that's a really good thing for people to remember. It doesn't have to last forever. There's always a way to connect with others.
Sometimes it just takes a little effort and being open.
That's it.
Well, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our amazing Thought Tidbits viewers out there, remember, you're not alone. If you're feeling lonely, reach out, explore, be kind to yourself, and never stop looking for those connections that make life so meaningful. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives, and share this with anyone who might need to hear this message. We'll see you next time on Thought Tidbits.